An escalating trade dispute between the U.S. and other major economies sent stocks spiraling down today. The Dow plunged 328 points, the steepest loss it's seen in more than 2 months. Investors weren't the only ones skittish about a trade war. Motorcycle maker Harley Davidson said it's shifting production of bikes destined for Europe overseas. Since the Trump administration imposed tariffs on European steel and aluminum, Harley says retaliatory tariffs from the EU could cost the company $100 million a year. Trump accused the company of surrendering. All right, let's go to Bryden Teich. He's a partner and the portfolio manager at Avenue Investment Management, and joins us now from Toronto. Bryden, thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Is this the first big or significant drop we're seeing as a result of the escalation in the trade war?
I think so. I think this is an issue that we've been now focused on for the past few months, and I think today really was when the market is starting to take this seriously. I think the underlying U.S. economy continues to do well, and at least for the next 6 months is forecasted to perform pretty well. But I think this rhetoric about trade has been lingering as a cloud over the stock market for the last few months, and I think that the market's starting to take it a little bit more seriously today.
All right, let's break it down a little bit more because, of course, we're seeing retaliatory tariffs from the EU, but also from China, also coming from Canada. What stocks got hit the hardest and why?
Yeah, so certainly we saw weakness in the technology sector today. So the NASDAQ, which is the U.S. tech index, was down over 2%. And I think largely that was on the back end of some of the concerns that the U.S. might start limiting foreign investment into some of their technology. And so I think, on one hand, there's a case to be made where the U.S. and other countries, you're seeing this in Australia as well, but countries are starting to take the cyber or intellectual property theft much more seriously. And China, in a lot of ways, has been a bad actor on this for many years. And so there's something that, this is a conversation that we should be having about how do we make, certain technologies more protected against foreign theft. We saw this, even similarly raised as a concern with the Canadian Aecon construction deal recently. So these are issues, but I think that the tech sector really felt the brunt of it today with this news. All
right. Also, tech companies, I guess, have very strong connections and sourcing from China.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even if you think about Apple phones and the manufacturing that goes into the phones, a lot of that is done in China, and semiconductors as well will be largely exposed to that. So I think this tit for tat raising of tariffs on both sides is definitely starting to get worrying. And if you think about how complicated the supply chains are for a lot of these companies aren't built to deal with tariffs of this magnitude and of this severity. And so I think that there's still hope that calmer heads will prevail. But for now, it looks like the rhetoric is being heightened to a maximum level.
Yeah, people are saying, look, we're going to put our plans in play now because we're past the rhetoric point. Harley Davidson is a perfect example. They make some of the best bikes in the world, and they're American, but they're pushing out some of the production because they don't want to be hit by the EU tariffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're also starting to see from the EU is specifically targeting states that were very important to Trump in the past election and heading into the midterm. So Wisconsin obviously was a critical state for him, and that's where Harley Davidsons are made. And so the EU retaliating on Harley Davidsons, was really a direct shot at one of his key constituent states. But you're also seeing, companies have to react very quickly to this. So Harley Davidson had to very quickly make the decision to say, any bikes that we're now going to be selling to Europe, we have to move those jobs. We have to move that production over to Europe. Otherwise, we can't conduct business under these kind of circumstances. And so I know Trump was out with a tweet later today saying, just be patient. But companies don't have the luxury of being patient when you have, complicated supply chains and you're trying to meet quarterly earnings forecasts and the like. So you're seeing the reaction from Harley Davidson having to move production over there. And I think that if the rhetoric continues, I think that's a trend that we'll see from other companies as well.
Wow. All right. We got to leave it there, Bryden. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.